I think it's only right that I begin my statement by acknowledging the deep hurt and trauma experienced and still being experienced by people affected by this issue. I'm sure I'm not alone in this House in saying that no other issue has seen so many people contact my office, either by phone or by email, or indeed in person, and I've had a number of conversations with survivors about their experience. The period investigated by the Mother and Baby Homes Commission is a very dark chapter in the history of this country, on which we've just begun to shine a light. More and much more needs to be done to deal with this awful legacy. Minister, I want to acknowledge the briefings provided by your department and indeed conversations I've had with you in person to help me better understand the scope and intention of this bill. We need to be clear about what this piece of legislation does and doesn't do, and the consequences of not enacting it. I hear and understand some of the legitimate concerns of the opposition and indeed Deputy Calleary regarding the speed that this legislation is passing through the House, but we must be clear too about the specific time constraints that make this necessary. Put simply, and as you explained it to me, the bill allows for the preservation of a database of records that will otherwise be lost on the dissolution of the Commission at the end of this month. All the work, all the effort of compiling these records put beyond future use. Minister, this can't be allowed to happen. The intention here is not to seal records, it's to preserve them. As I understand it, information contained in the database will still be available under current law, but I think we'd all acknowledge that current law needs to be revisited. That is a significant and sensitive piece of work, and I know that you wouldn't countenance work of that nature being rushed. However, in view of the deficiencies of current legislation, I welcome the commitments you've given here today. So to engage with the Attorney-General's Office to find a way forward on the issue of personal data access in the Commission's archive, so vitally important for former residents, and to ask the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Children, Disability, Equality and Integration to lead on this re-examination. This issue is so big and runs so deep that everyone in this chamber would agree that it needs to be given time and space that it deserves. I think the Oireachtas Committee would allow that time and space for survivors and their representatives, expert legal opinion and other leading academics to really and forensically drill down into the issues around access to personal information in the Commission's archive, around the rights to privacy, and around the very real and deeply felt trauma that the survivors still experience. There are very real difficulties which the passage of this legislation has highlighted, and they need to be addressed. Minister, I have no doubt that you will work closely with the committee towards finding a way forward for this vital work. Minister, I'll conclude as I began by acknowledging the hurt of those people I've spoken to who are so deeply affected by this issue. These last few weeks in the run-up to this legislation must have been incredibly difficult for them, and I can't begin to fathom how hard this debate has been for them. But Minister, I also know that your intention, or the intention of this bill, is not to re-traumatise victims or to deny their suffering or experience, but to preserve a vital record that would otherwise be lost. I would prefer, as I know you would, to give this issue the time and space it deserves, and I'm confident that you will make space for it. However, I don't think this House can allow these records to be lost to that future conversation, and that's the matters I understand being addressed in this bill.